Hi there, welcome to my channel, and today we're going to be making the most delicious, flavor-packed and saucy vegan butter chicken made from tofu. This is one of my favorite comfort meals because it's just so flavorful and it's pretty simple to make. So I'm going to start off with 3 blocks of extra firm tofu. Now I'm going to cover these with a kitchen towel and lightly pat them. You don't need to press too much if you're using extra firm tofu because it doesn't hold as much water. This is optional, but I'm just going to take my cast iron and set it on top of the tofu to just help press it a bit more. After a few minutes, you can remove the cast iron and we're just going to uncover the tofu. As you can see, the tofu is pretty stiff. So here I have a large bowl and I'm going to take my blocks of tofu one at a time and I'm just going to tear them into small chunks or pieces. Just like this. If you've seen my other recipes, you'll know I usually do this for tofu because I feel like it absorbs the flavors better and it gives it a nicer texture compared to regular cubes. Now that our tofu is ready, we're going to prepare the seasoning. I'm going to be using 1/4 of a cup of cornstarch, which will help the tofu get nice and crispy while baking. And then I have a teaspoon of curry powder, 3/4 of a teaspoon of chili powder, a teaspoon and a half of garam masala, and 3/4 of a teaspoon of ginger. Then I'm going to add in my spices into my cornstarch and mix it until it's fully combined. I would use my mini whisk, but I can't find it, so I'm just going to be using a spoon. So here I have the tofu from earlier, and I'm just going to take my spices and drizzle a bit everywhere. I like to add about half, and then I'm going to toss the tofu to coat all the pieces. Then we're going to add in the rest of our seasoning. Just make sure not to mix the tofu too aggressively because it's still very soft and it will break it into small pieces. Here I have a baking pan just lined with parchment paper and we're going to add the tofu to this. You can also pan fry your tofu instead of baking. I just prefer baking because I'm making a lot of tofu, so it's easier to just prepare the rest of my ingredients while this cooks. Now I'm going to pop this in the oven at 420 for about 25 to 27 minutes. Now while the tofu's baking, we're going to prepare the rest of the ingredients. For this recipe, I'll usually use a small white onion, but mine's pretty big, so I'm not going to use the whole thing. Then I'm going to finely chop the onion. You can chop it less if you prefer chunks. Now I'm going to set this aside so we can prepare the rest of our ingredients. If you're enjoying this recipe, then please make sure to like and subscribe so you can get notified anytime I post a new video. Now let's get back to the recipe. So here I have 2 limes and I'm just going to roll them to help get the juices out easier. Now I'm going to cut these and squeeze all the juices out. Then I'm going to transfer all my lime juice into a glass bowl and save for later. Now that everything's ready, we're going to head over to the stove. Now that my pan is heated up, I'm going to drizzle in a bit of olive oil and spread that around so that it could heat up nicely. Now that the oil is heated up, I'm going to add in my onion. Now I'm going to cook the onion for about 3 to 4 minutes or until they're translucent. Now that these have cooked for a few minutes, I'm going to add in my spice mix. All of the ingredients will be listed down below in the description. Now we're going to cook the spices for about a minute. Now that my spices have gotten nice and fragrant, I'm going to add in 2 cans or 800 milliliters of coconut milk. Mine is 18% fat. Then I'm just going to stir this up. You want all the spices to get nicely incorporated. Next, I'm going to add in 6 ounces of tomato paste. Now I'm going to mix this in really well using a whisk. Now that all the ingredients are fully incorporated, I'm going to let this simmer for about 5 minutes, stirring occasionally. So it's been about 5 minutes and you can see the sauce has thickened up quite a bit. I'm going to stir this a little bit more and then we're going to add in our tofu. Now back with my wooden spoon, I'm going to stir in the tofu. Now we're going to let this simmer for another 5 minutes so the sauce can thicken up more and the tofu can absorb all the flavor. I'm also going to stir this occasionally. Now that it's been 5 minutes, I'm going to add in the lime juice from earlier. Now we're going to mix this in fully. I've just turned off the heat and I'm gonna let this cool for a few minutes before serving. Thank you so much for watching, and follow for more simple plant-based recipes.